Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. I leave tomorrow for the Race to World First. For those that haven't heard, I'm casting that again with Team Liquid. I'm very excited about it, but I wanted to get you all a video today. Sort of the final video before the race, looking at Manaforge Omega from a Warlock POV, talking and discussing what fights, what specs on each fight I think we're going to play. This is going to be more from a Mythic POV, but it probably works for the most part for Heroic as well, and things like that. Some things might vary a bit, and honestly, I could be wrong. Warlock's in a pretty interesting spot this tier, where all three specs are looking pretty solid, which is a rarity. Haven't had that in a while. And yeah, so I might be wrong here, but I love making this video. It's always fun. I want to give you all a bit of a POV, or I guess look at what could be, maybe should be, likely will be the best spec heading into each fight in Manaforge Omega. Now, once again, these fights are going to be for more a Mythic POV as far as like what specs you should play are concerned, but for Heroic, it should probably be about the same, give or take in progression. Things might vary a bit, but either way, Mythic POV is what we're talking about here. As far as Plexus Sentinel is concerned, the first boss you're going to encounter in Manaforge Omega, it's basically a patchwork fight with a bit of movement. You can use your demonic circles to circle back to the middle of the room if you get the runaway drop in the edge of the room debuff. There are a couple soaks, like split soaks with different groups and things. You use your cloak to traverse the wall, like you see right there, that will otherwise one-shot you. On normal and heroic and all that, the boss is pure patchwork. On Mythic, when the boss phases, though, there are adds that spawn in the intermission. I believe there are more domes and things you need to like traverse through as well. The ads had a very, very low amount of health on PTR, to the point where most of your raid can probably just ignore them and go hit the boss, because you need to break the boss's shield as well to get him out of phase 1, or I guess the intermission. Likely what you're going to see here is probably just demonology. Maybe you can see destruction here as well. They're both pretty good when it comes to single target. You can see the ads spawning in here. If they have no health, they're already dying and the raid's running along. If you play Destruction here, you're probably just playing full single target with Shadowburn. I doubt you're playing anything else with Havoc or even Mayhem Cleave. The ads aren't present often enough or live long enough to make any kind of, real relevant cleave profile there. It's likely it's a demonology or destruction angle here. I could see Demo just ignoring the ads, hitting the boss with CD timings being pretty good to break shields here in Tyrants, but either way, it's going to be a Demo Destro fight here. I would lean probably a bit more towards Demonology personally, but Destro is pretty good, not too far behind than single target, and you have Shadowbird from movement, maybe a little cleave on the ads as well. So Plexus Sentinel, a Demo or Destro fight in my opinion. Loom'ithar is boss number 2 you're going to encounter in Manaforge Omega, and this is a fight that changes a lot from normal to heroic to mythic. On normal, the ads that, or I guess the webs that are encroaching around the edge of the room, those little like orbs along the webs, they're all targetable on normal. You don't need to break them with this frontal. On heroic and higher though, that tank frontal needs to break the actual web. Like basically hit the orbs with it to break the shield, and then you kill the orbs and you find a hole to walk through to not die or get stunned by the webs. On heroic, you have to break the actual shell of the orb there, with only one wall being present. On mythic, there are 2 walls, so both tank frontals need to break 2 different walls. You run through, kill the ads, and hit the boss. I would likely lean towards destruction on this fight, playing Diabolist, just with either Havoc or Mayhem based cleave. I think when it comes to what you're going to want here, you're going to want that precise cleave basically whenever the walls are broken. So Havoc is pretty solid here. However, the timings for Havoc did feel a little funky during testing. They might change the cadence of the walls. They were spawning really fast. The boss was just basically spamming the ability. It felt sort of empty with it being the case. So if Havoc does line up well in this fight, it very well could just be a Diabolist Destro Havoc fight. You can see how color here as well, but Diabolist is better in single target. And phase 2 is basically a soft enrage, kill the boss, or it kills you with no other ads present. At the same time, there is a world where you can play Havoc or Mayhem in this fight, because the only ads you're going to be cleaving are the ones you're hitting. You're not going to be breaking walls. You're not, trying to break for the most part. So I think it's the Destro angle. You could play Demo here. There's a lot of movement, and while Demo can cast a lot of spells in the move, it felt like I was trying to set up Tyrants in the move quite often. It was pretty annoying. Shadowburn could be good here for the movement, as well as wall cleave if they're going to die in that cleave range, refunding shards. And in phase 2, also a lot of movement with spread and stack mechanics, and it is an enrage. So while Demonology might be a little stronger than Diabolist Destruction and single target, they're both pretty close, and Destro can bring a lot of cleave on the actual walls here, so I give the nod to Destro here. Hellcaller is not terrible, but you want a lot of more bursty Destro damage to break those walls quick. So Wither's profile, not as strong, but I think it's still Destro regardless, probably Diabolist, but we'll see where it goes. I wouldn't fault you for playing Demonology either. Soulbinder Naazindhri, I'm going to call it Nosferatu because it sounds cooler, is going to be an interesting fight. I think there is some relevance to every spec here. So the boss, the larger cooldown points of this fight, obviously on pull, every 2 minutes the boss will basically break any remaining cages you didn't break with the debuffs you'll see in a minute here, summoning the rest of the adds that are present in the encounter. That's roughly at every 2 minute timestamp. It's like 205, 410, give or take. So you have 2 minute cooldowns that line up really well. Sort of becomes like a stacked AoE meat grinder in a sense, right? Besides that, you tank the boss on top of the canisters. You basically break the adds out, which leads to pretty strong cleave. However, the boss is stacked here. So while it seems like it's a pretty good destro fight, these adds actually melt. You have the whole melee meat grinder here. When I was playing AF in the fight, it felt subpar. Destro felt like I could only get a little bit of havoc cleave out on these adds. It very well could just be a demonology angle. You play Demo in single target, stack the boss, cleave them with Demonology's cleave profile, and just kill the boss. If the adds have more health than they did on Mythic testing, which is likely, could be a pretty good Destro angle here as well. Destro's pretty good in single target. Likely looking at playing more of a Hellcaller-based profile here, even though Diabolus is stacked. I can see both, honestly. When it comes to having that 2 minute intermission, which we'll see in a minute here, with all the adds spawning in, you can get a really good bit of stat cleave, going Cataclysm into Malevolence, Infernal, Rain of Fire damage, or just, Diabolus Funnel. If you're playing Diabolus, can be really strong there too, onto the boss. I could even see a world where you end up playing Soul Harvester, Affliction here, similar to like Rick Reaver, Barrel spawning in, and Undermine, other like Cleave-esque fights that spawn in. You want that more front-loaded damage profile there with Soul Harvester AF. I can see it being a thing too. We ended up playing Affliction here in raid testing, and while it didn't seem as impressive here, this is before AF all the buffs. And this could mean you have a very large amount of funnel onto the boss here when all 5 adds break in about, well, when multiple adds break. It's Big Cold, the Weak funnel, Big Malignancy funnel, it's Affliction. You will probably nuke the boss during this time frame and also nuke the adds with Soul Harvester. It's only the 3rd boss in the raid. I doubt it's going to be incredibly difficult tuning-wise. Here come the rest of the adds in as well. But you can see at this point in the fight, if you can grip these in, big PS, Soul Rot value, Big Cold, Weak value, just blast the boss down here with a front-loaded, Soul Harvester, Rapture-based profile. Affliction might just ascend at this point, but it's stat cleave, Demonology is good there too, and Destro's not bad on cages with, Havoc Cleave or Cataclysm, Wither, AoE profile either. So honestly, all 3 are pretty solid here. I probably lean a bit more towards just playing Demonology here, but I could see either or. Demo and Destro are a bit tuned, higher tuned than Affliction, but if you can get AF's, funnel profile being good here, probably pretty solid as well. This is one of those toss-ups. I think all 3 are good. I'd probably lean more Demonology here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Affliction here pretty strong every 2 minutes and seeing a lot of play as well. Forgeweaver Araz is the 4th boss you encounter in Manaforge Omega, and this fight has a lot of hectic Ag Cleave-esque movement kind of abilities going on. Destro, Demo, and even AF have relevance here. Now, if you're playing Destruction, these pylons that spawn every so often from the boss by invoking the Collector here, basically stay at full health. You can get pretty much permanent flashpoint on them, similar to the shielded adds on Mugsy and Undermine progression, if you remember that. At the same time, there's a lot of frequent ad spawns that you place behind this portal here. Once they go through the portal, the shields break, you cleave them down. It's good for Destro Cleave. You can get Catacleave here, just solid Destro Cleave in general, but they do die pretty quickly. This is a choice of Havoc versus Mayhem in this fight. I think it's likely more of a Havoc angle. You do have these large ads spawning here, the Echoes, which are from the group soaks, which you can cleave onto the boss, as well as cleaving the ad down and getting flashpoint off the pylons. Demonology for stat cleave here could just be okay as well. It feels like if this boss is tuned tightly, it's going to be a pretty good destruction control fight, where you want a handful of Destro locks controlling pylons, controlling the smaller ads, killing the big Echo ads. At the same time, when the boss comes out of his phase 2, you do see him take about, I think it's about 12 seconds of 100% increased damage, which classes that can do extra damage during that burn are going to be exceptionally strong. When it comes to Warlock and burst damage, Afflictions are highest. Hellcaller Affliction, Soul Harvester Affliction, that's the spec that does the most damage for Warlock in smaller burst windows. Affliction. Destro and Demo have a relatively flat profile now. Destro's half a minute with Crashing Chaos. Demonology with Reign of Tyranny being gone, it has some burst with Tyrant, but it's just relatively consistent, honestly. The burstier version of Demo is arguably probably just Soul Harvester, this tier set, but there's a lot of movement in this fight, a lot of odd cleave, just weird non-cleave scenarios and such. I feel like I'm leaning toward Destruction on this fight. It's seeing the most played spec in progression for early Mythic, even heading into like week 2, 3, 4. The question is, do you want Mayhem versus Havoc here? Do you want Diabolus versus Hellcaller here? I feel like you're likely looking at more of a Hellcaller based profile on this fight, maintaining flashpoint on these pylons with, you know, basically permanent flashpoint unless you go into phase 2. Having that strong damage amp when you come out of phase 2 as well, you can dump some damage into it. But that also opens up the window for maybe like Hellcaller Affliction. Wouldn't be terrible either, right? You're not going to get permanent flashpoint value. You're not going to have a whole lot of cleave in the actual smaller ads here, but you can bring a decent bit of cleave on the large echo ads if you want more burn coming out of phase 2, which is pretty relevant if you can push the boss into his, you know, phase 3 earlier. Hellcaller's burst profile is going to be the strongest there. So it's a bit of a toss-up. I would lean toward Destruction for just general ad control. What Destro brings, permanent flashpoint, good Havoc cleave. Destro does look pretty strong in a single target as well here. It could just be a Diabolus Destro angle also. Maybe we're overthinking Hellcaller a little bit here. But regardless, you have multiple choices on this fight. I think it's Destro in the long run. But if you want more burst in this fight, if the boss is overtuned and you need more nuke damage in that, you know, phase 2 damage amp burn, I wouldn't be surprised to see Affliction here either. We'll see where it goes, but I'm going to lead Destruction. It's possible to see Affliction or Demonology here, but I think Destro is likely the way to go in the long run. The 5th boss you're going to encounter is the Soul Hunters. This is the optional, yet totally not optional boss in the raid. It's already the one of the least optional bosses of the first 5. Maybe the least optional in general because it has the boots everybody wants. I digress. This boss became much faster on Mythic and became a much less enjoyable boss than it was on Heroic, but regardless, you're playing a Warlock here. Destruction and Affliction are very good on council-based fights. We'll get it out of the way. I mean, Demonology is stat cleave-based. I think Destro and Af are better here. The question is, what are you playing? Is it more Affliction or is it more Destruction? Destro and Af both received a handful of buffs recently, and it puts both in a pretty good spot. I feel like you're probably just going to lean playing Destruction here for ease of play. This fight was very fun on Heroic. On Mythic, it's just mechanic vomit, honestly. It was still sort of cool, I guess, but it felt like we could have sort of made other abilities. We could have made the fight more difficult in a different manner instead of just saying, hey, every ability is 50% faster. It is not as enjoyable as was on Heroic, but I digress. I think you are looking to play Destruction here. Destruction, Hellcaller Destruction, Mayhem, and just patchwork one boss down and hope your spells cleave. That's basically it. Between Hunt, Soaks, clearing blue debuffs, Imp Dispels, Frontals, being linked in the intermission, random damage coming out, all three intermissions being different, everything just being mechanically vomited at you, it's likely a good bit easier to just play a Destruction here. Maintain Wither on all 3 targets, cast Kata when they're stacked, versus juggling Agonies and juggling PSs and Soul Rots, everything else is Affliction. I think both are going to be good here. Whether you're playing Destruction or Affliction, you're playing Hellcaller here. I don't think it's very close. But I think for ease of play and just mechanical, making things easier mechanically, as far as like dealing with the intermissions, being linked together here and all that, you just lean Destruction. Destruction, Hellcaller with Mayhem, quite possibly rolling Havoc as well, because you can indeed have Mayhem proc on the bosses that teleport away in the intermission here to maintain really high rolling Havoc stacks. It's something that's a huge Destro cleave angle. Play single target, play Mayhem, quite possibly rolling Havoc. You're playing Shadowburn here for movement also, and just kill the boss. It's going to be a mechanics check. I really doubt it's overtuned damage-wise, but this boss has tier shoulders. It has the boots everybody wants, and they changed the boots recently to have more value, whether it's normal, Heroic, Mythic. I believe it's 30, 40, 50% for a cloak damage increase, so killing this boss, it's not really optional. It might not die in order in the race world first, but this boss is also required for Hall of Fame now, which we didn't think it would be initially, so it's a good thing. But I think we're leaning towards Destruction here. If you want to play AF, it's more than fine. It'll probably be a really fun AF boss, whether you're doing it in progression or farm. You don't really get council bosses that often. I played AF on One Arm Bandit up until our last week of farm because it's a rare council cleave based boss for Affliction, and that's fun. But in progression, you can just mindlessly patchwork a boss down and have Destro cleave passively with Mayhem and all that. I think you're likely leaning Destruction here, but we'll go from there and see where it lands. Fractillus is going to be the 6th boss you encounter in the raid. Yeah, 6th. It's basically Sludge Fist position. We're going to sort of put aside the weak aura discussion for this boss, it could be pretty trivial with weak auras simplifying the fight. They might have changed things from testing to when the fight actually launches. I think it's a cool fight. I think it'd be a lot cooler without weak aura solving everything for you, but this is the world we live in. Not getting into that right now. What you're going to play here is the best single target spec that allows for movement at times. If you're not given a debuff to drop a wall on a certain spot, honestly, you stand where you are and you just kill the boss. There can be a lot of movement for you. There can be very little movement for you, depending on what happens. It's RNG. At this current point in time, it's Demo or Destro. I would lean towards Demonology here. With Destruction, you do get Shadow Burn and things for movement, but honestly, like I said, the frequency of movement for you, whether you get debuff or not, is sort of RNG, and Demonology is pretty good in the move still regardless, with Demon Bolt procs, Dog procs, and if you have no other spells to cast as Demonology on the move, keep in mind, you actually can cast Corruption. They made it instant cast for Demonology this patch. I keybound it. I don't want to keybind it. Probably never cast it, because typically you have bolts or siphons or dogs, but regardless, keep that in mind. This is going to be a solid, just single target burn. I would assume with how this boss is going to end up being, mechanically, it's probably going to be tuned really tightly for damage, so I'm leaning Demonology here. Just whatever's the highest, which is currently Diabolus Demonology. I wouldn't fault somebody for playing Destro here if they want to err towards a Shadow Burn and such, but in a world first setting, you're playing the best single target spec that you can play without being trolled by movement, which is Demonology. Demonology Diabolist here, don't really see a whole lot else happening. Affliction's fine, but it's just not as good as Demo or Destro when single target. So yeah. Diabolus Destro, fight's fun, but probably not going to be a super high pull count unless they overtune the boss to crazy amount, which I low-key hope they do, because that'd be pretty cool. Nexus-King Salhadaar is the 7th boss, aka the penultimate boss you're going to encounter in Manaforge Omega. I've opted to use some heroic testing footage here, not Mythic. Mythic looks utterly insane. If you want, check the channel for Mythic testing, but all the pulls are basically a minute wipe into the fight. On Mythic, this fight is Tyndral. This fight is Mugsy. It is 0 to 100 from the start. Regardless, though, there are a handful of phases on this fight which have different damage profiles. Phase 1 is basically single target cleave, or sorry, single target no cleave, which, you're going to get decent bit of damage into the boss. Phase 1 or 1.5, though, basically spawns the dragon. There's dragons around the edge of the room here, which do things on Mythic, but it spawns in a dragon, which you can basically cleave onto. Destro gets good cleave there. Af gets good cleave there as well. It's also just a stack cleave, basically. The boss is on top of the dragon, so Demonology gets some pretty good cleave there also. Phase 1.5 spawns 2 platforms on the edge of the room where adds spawn in. It's like a meat grinder. Go over there, blast a prio ad down with some little smaller ads as well. And then coming out of that, you get a damage amp. Burn on basically the dragon, which the boss channels into. So classes that have damage amps there, major CDs, you want to get as much damage dealt to the boss as possible. And then phase 3, or the final phase, whatever phase it is at that point, is a single target, kill the boss, or, basically, well, he kills you kind of thing. When it comes to this fight, all 3 specs have merit here. You can get a good bit of Destro cleave, you can get a good bit of just stack Demonology cleave. You can get a good bit of AF cleave too. Affliction on the platforms in phase, I guess 1.5, whatever you're calling it, does actually bring a good bit of just solid ag cleave. You can go over there and throw up a Singularity, throw a Seed out, have Malevolence for that as well, depending on push timings and all that, which can give you a lot of cleave on the smaller ads. You can see you're pushing into phase 1.5 here, or 1, I guess 1.5, with the dragon spawning in. At the same time, you've got stat cleave here in this phase right now. Whether you're playing Af, Demo, or Destro can just Mayhem cleave here, Havoc cleave here. Af can have just, dot cleave in general. There's 2 targets. Demonology, they're stacked. It's Meteor cleave. Demo's profile is known for that. Hand of Gul'dan cleave, Meteor cleave, just general Demonology pets cleaving, right? So all 3 are good here. I think the question, though, is what spec can make the best use of the damage amp heading into that phase 2 or 2.5 burn on the boss when he's channeling into the dragon and taking the dragon's health away into himself, right? If you can get an insane amount of burn in there, hey, it's pretty solid. At the same time, when you're pushing into the intermission here with these platforms, what spec can do the most here? I'd opt to say Affliction or Destruction can do a lot here. There's a prio ad there. Affliction can get insane funnel here onto this with the smaller ads being up. Cold the weak value, focus malignancy value, just general haunt funnel value. Destruction can go in here, throw down a Cataclysm into a Malevolence and or an Infernal and melt the world. And even Demonology can come in here and put in a decent bit of damage as well, right? So it really depends on the damage profile you're going to want. I think like the safer pick here to say, oh, this spec's gonna be played, is probably just, I mean, it's probably Demo or Destro for like being the safer picks here, and sort of a wash, whichever one can do more in the actual burn phase, which is coming up right about now. I'm gonna lean towards Affliction being sort of like a, what do you call it? Not a dog, but a rogue pick, whatever you want here. Affliction can do a lot of damage in a smaller burst window. Keep in mind there are some trinket effects as well this time around. Maybe there's the, I forgot what it's called, but there's one trinket on use that does a lot of damage. Whenever you use it, Affliction has Haunt, Shadow's Embrace damage modifiers as well, which can do even more damage in a burn window. And if the boss is taking double damage, both this boss or Dementius, which both have damage increases on them, there is a world where you can get a large amount of burst damage in there. Hellcaller Affliction, Soul Harvester Affliction, those are the specs that do the most burst damage for Warlock. You do a lot of damage in your Rapture windows, then sort of fall off. That burn phase is coming up right about now, which takes, I think, like 5 or 6 seconds to charge up, and it's about a half-minute burn, give or take. So it does theoretically fit, like, Destro and Demo well, but I still think this could be an half angle. The damage amp might even be short. I think it's shorter on Mythic. I'm not even sure. I should check that. If it is, I'll put a note in the screen here in this video. But regardless, having more of a upfront loaded burst profile, which you can use during this fight, because there's a lot of movement in this phase on Mythic as well with these just slashes coming in. There's a lot going on. I lean towards AF. Maybe just being the play here, honestly. When you have 2 permanent targets, you're getting double Wither Cleave, which is very good. During that phase, you're getting a lot of cleave, which is good. Even heading into phase 3 here, which is crazier on Mythic as well, you can just move around after doing a lot of damage. Obviously, Destro and Demo can move also, but you're not getting as much of like... The profiles are relevant, but I think AF is like a sleeper here. You could just see Demo. Could just see Destro, but on fights with damage amps, wanting to dump a lot of damage in a shorter window, I think you might see Affliction play here. So when it comes to this fight, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Affliction. For Dementius, we haven't seen it yet really, so there's no Dementius section in this video, but Dementius has a damage amp on it as well. So depending on how that fight shakes out, could easily see Dementius being an AF fight too. It's a very interesting tier where all 3 lock specs are in a good spot. So we'll see where it goes, but regardless, if you're a Warlock this tier, you're eating good. So thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I am right on maybe some of these fights. What specs you're playing on the bosses of Manaforge Omega. Lock looks good this tier. I'm surprised that we're good as we are this tier. It's a rarity at this point, but it feels like, I think Blizz might have mixed up Mage and Warlock this tier as far as tuning is concerned, but they're actually both pretty good. But either way, it should be a good raid. Should be a fun raid. I haven't really been this excited for a raid in a long time. Feels like we're finally getting into what is the storyline of Warth and Saga. Goblins were cool, spiders were sick, but the ethereal old god stuff, that's what I like. I think it's cool and wow, what I enjoy. I'm pumped for it. So thanks for watching, guys. We course add-ons, anything that's on the video, links to Twitch, Discord, and all that up here, as well as down below in the description, where you can get them all for free. And at the same time, like always, a huge thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. Thank you all for all the support. Like always, greatly appreciated. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to do what I do and make videos for y'all, and I appreciate it. So if you're looking at supporting on Patreon, once again, link up here as well as down below in the description. Like I said, these fights are mostly from a Mythic POV for like what spec I assume is best in the fight, but things might vary a little bit. Fingers crossed Monday rolls around and there's no, oh yeah, we're gonna nerf everybody else. We're gonna nerf Warlock and Mage and DK at the same time from Blizz. I don't think they do that, but at the same time, I've seen crazier. So we'll see where it goes, but thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch y'all again soon on stream. Peace. Oh, from California. Peace.